Hi Joe, you live in Los Angeles in the United States where you work as a journalist. And my first question to you is, what did the US media report on the fact that many people are fleeing Syria these days and coming to Europe? And how do the images look like that you saw on television?
We get a lot of big, bold images of people crossing oceans, landing on islands, going into train stations, but there's very little explanation or context of even where these different places are, you would not hear about Hungary and its closing borders, none of that.
Okay, and as I understand you live in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is just about 100 miles away from the US-Mexican border, and I know there's a fence between the US and Mexico. And these days there are many politicians in Europe who demand to build border fences. What's your experiences on fences with regards to stopping illegal immigration?
They don't do a lot to stop it, and they're very inconvenient for people in a place like Southern California, where people need to move back and forth across the border between Southern California and Baja California very often, sometimes every day for their work, to visit relatives and the like. As someone who moves across the border, it's very difficult, particularly moving from the Mexico to the US side. You often experience waiting in line for 3 or more hours just to walk a few hundred yards to pick up the trolley back to San Diego.
And is a border fence a means to stop immigration for you?
It has never worked that way anywhere else. We don't have a lot of immigration, illegal or otherwise, right now in the United States. It's actually been very flat, much lower than it was from the historic highs 30 and 40 years ago.
You came to Germany as tomorrow on 22nd October, Zuckerle Public Square you work for and Democracy International will host the event What Can the World Learn from Europe's Refugee Crisis? For you, what's the lesson to be learned?
To follow the laws and treaties that you already have. Those treaties are very important. They guide you. Don't make it up as you go along. Don't let executives close borders and change the rules of the game as you do it. And respond as a refugee crisis is. It's an emergency. Do the best you can in the most human way you can for people and follow the law.
And you are a board member of Democracy International, so I guess and I know you care a lot about democracy. And for you, what's the democratic dimension involved or with regards to the refugee crisis?
There are two, beyond just following laws and treaties that are democratically arrived at. It's also for refugees who decide to stay, to become immigrants, and to be part of new societies, that they are included. Democracy is about inclusion, and they're included in decision making, particularly in local level, in the communities where they settle, in the schools where their children end up going.
Okay, and these days there are politicians, journalists and citizens alike who are looking for solutions. And there doesn't seem to be one. So maybe, do you have a solution to solve the issues at stake?
Well, I do think making sure that we're, in the short term, being very open and welcoming and dealing with an emergency situation, and in the long term, integrating. We should be talking about things like, letting folks who are immigrants, vote in the school district elections of the schools where their kids go, and vote in the local elections of the places where they live. That's the kind of conversation, not just because it's the right thing to do, but it's also part of a larger integration of people into societies. Democracy is about inclusion and integration.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.